say thank you all for joining us today. It's, as I said, great to see some familiar faces and really excited to be kicking off the first instalment of our Meet the Experts webinar series. Today, joined by Senior Africa Specialist, Peter Felix, known to everyone as Felix. So just in case there's any confusion, it's Felix. So we've all kind of been a bit virtual over the last 2 years, and I thought this would be a great way to reintroduce the team to everyone and let you meet everyone. And if you've got any questions, then of course you know where we are and you can start asking us and being familiar with the team. But without wasting any more time, let's just jump straight into it. So Felix, do you want to tell us a bit about your industry experience? When and how did you first come into it?
Of course. Thank you, Molly, and thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. And yes, so I first travelled to Africa in late 2002 to go and play some golf in South Africa in between leaving school and going to university. And as time went on, left university, and as one does, needed a job. And I saw an advert in the local paper for what was at the time a very small local travel company called Orderly Travel, and joined them. And I think really the intention was I love travel, I'd love my time in Africa being there, and it was a chance to indulge my passion for what I thought would be a relatively short amount of time, going back to 2006 here. And very quickly, what was a passing interest has become a great passion and something I've obviously made a career out of. And here we are 16 years later, and a lot older, I'd like to think slightly wiser, but here to help you curate these amazing trips for everyone to Africa.
Yeah, 16 years in the industry as an Africa specialist is certainly some good miles on you. Over 16 years, I mean, how many times have you been to Africa now?
So the count is at 26 at the moment. That counter has been stuck since the latter part of 2019. So hoping soon that we'll get 27 and more on the cards. I've got a couple of trips I'd like to plan for the latter part of this year. So hopefully moving that counter on sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, the last 2 years have been a bit of a wipeout, but it's so exciting to finally be traveling, especially traveling back to Africa. I think anyone who's been to Africa will definitely understand the draw to return as soon as you can. I mean, it's not called the Africa travel bug for any reason.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's looking, I think everyone over there that we speak to, they're so excited about. So we're coming into safari season pretty much everywhere now. See a number of your own clients, the guys who are on this webinar traveling, which is great. And yeah, I think everyone is just so excited to get a first proper season of safari goers since 2019. It's going to be fantastic.
So exciting. So in your time, which has been, or what currently, because I know that it changes, is your favorite country to visit and why?
I think it's a pretty easy answer, and that's Zambia. For me, it captures the essence of everything that's great about safaris, and they're these big, wide open spaces and dramatic landscapes, wonderfully varied wildlife, a great number of ways of doing your game viewing as well, game drives. But Zambia it's the home of the walking safari in the South Wangwa. You've got some amazing walking trails that you can do there. Overnight sleep out, see the lower Zambezi, great destination. We want to do boating safaris and walking as well, canoeing on the river. And then you've got your smaller hidden gem parks in there. Kafue certainly is the smallest national park in Zambia by quite some distance, but massively unknown, underrated for many international visitors, but a lot of development going on there that I'll touch on later on. The little spots like the North Wangwa National Park, Luambi, which is sandwiched between the North and South Wangwas, and then for your real enthusiasts, particularly those who love their birding, Bwangwelu wetlands up in the north, and the Kasanka National Park that has the world's largest mammal migration of fruit bats that takes place in November every year. It's really diverse, and Victoria Falls, and I think Molly will attest to this, Vic Falls is a great addition to any trip to Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so hard, that question, to be able to answer it, but it's always nice to see where is currently featuring. So as I'm sure many of you know from working with us previously, our approach is always starting with a blank piece of paper when it comes to planning itineraries for your clients. And, we don't have any particular affiliations with anyone. So that can make it, I imagine, quite challenging, Felix. How do you go about starting to build an itinerary for each client based on their interest when there's so much variety?
Of course, and I think, as Molly says, everything we do is a blank piece of paper, and there's just so much on offer in Africa. And really, the way we build it working with you is it's great getting understanding of how much you guys know about Africa. And I appreciate some of you know it very well, some of you know it reasonably well, and some of you it might be only your first or second African inquiry that's coming to us. So, in the first instance, it's about getting that understanding of how much you know about the continent and the destination that's being requested of you. We've then, if you know a lot, it's great we can start to move into the consultation stage. If not, we do have a template of questions that we can send to you that you can pass on to your clients. And that really helps both you and I to get to understand what the client's looking for, the style of trip, where they want to go, the types of accommodation. And then from there, what we always encourage is a three-way call. So having yourselves, us, and the client on that call. And what that allows us to do is, A, it keeps you in the loop in the process the whole time. We never do it without you because we appreciate that they're your clients first and foremost, they're not ours. But that allows us to understand exactly what the client's looking for. Hopefully allow us, myself and Matt doing Africa, to really impart our knowledge on what we know and why we are a genuine specialist operator. Hopefully useful for yourselves as well, in that it can become more of an educational process into the types of questions it's really useful to ask on Africa trips, and also how to deal with these kinds of calls. So really useful task for all three parties involved. And then from there, it's the standard process really of building a trip, you consulting through you, making sure that requirements are there for the client, and making it really clear that the first version we send, it's not the hard and fast, this is what you must do. We're always happy to change camps, obviously availability and logistical issues permitting, we'll do that. And then just helping yourselves to see that booking through to the natural conclusion with the client, and getting more and more happy travellers to Africa in the books.
Yeah, I think it's also important to highlight, just for some of you who haven't booked perhaps an Africa trip with us before, but have to other countries, much like we would in Europe or even in Asia, that everything that we will put together, we're happy to put your branding on it. And so if you did want to have a three-way call with Felix, or as he's rightly said, with Matt and the clients, you can very much offer that as an extension of, we're an extension of you, rather than us being some third person that they don't know of, and how that works with your clients. I know that sometimes can cause a bit of confusion. So with the kind of experience of itinerary planning, Felix, what would you say are some of the best experiences that you could and perhaps should be including in an itinerary?
Of course. I mean, as Molly's pointed out, it's so diverse in Africa and there's so much going on. Naturally, safaris form a massive part of what people do there. Many trips will be purely safari based. Some will be sort of 80% South Africa, maybe a little bit less. But ultimately, it's important to understand that every safari, a destination that you go to is different, and B, the offerings you can do are different in terms of the style of activities. So really, it's a case of saying what your clients want. Often for first timers, they like to go on a lot of game drives, because that's a great way to cover an enormous amount of ground and see a massive variety of wildlife. Those that have been before, walking safaris can be a hugely rewarding way to spend some time getting to know the bush. And likewise, that little variety that comes in of offering boating safaris, particularly Botswana and Zambia and certain parts of Zimbabwe, really strong in terms of offering boat trips. There's great fishing to be had for those that have the patience and want to be out in the sunshine in the afternoon. So much to see and do. So 100% say safari, but important to stress, and I think Molly can attest this from her African trips, there's so much to do, and it's not just safari.
I also have to give a special shout out, because I think it's one of the things that you don't often think of, but for me, whenever I'm on an African safari, the things that I really appreciate, and I never remember to appreciate until I'm there and suddenly reminded of how amazing it is the stargazing. I know it might sound a bit simple, but we can organise some amazing experience with astrologists, and the guides, even that kind of comes into a lot of their guide training as well. So it's actually something that I think is a real like nice add-on and a nice bonus and highlight to really highlight to clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that's sort of easily forgotten, but with the lack of light pollution, those African night skies are so clear, and often the guys they're using the stars to help guide them back to camp in the evenings. So it's a lovely way of sort of rounding off your thing and getting a more rounded experience of Africa.
Yeah.
And I think beyond safaris, Victoria Falls is a perennial favourite of so many people's. Easily accessed from obviously all of Zambia and Zimbabwe, and you can get there to either start or end a trip. Likewise, easily accessible from Botswana. Now the new bridge is in place at Kazungula.
You don't have the ropies,
ropes and speedboats are gone, and that just makes that journey a lot more seamless. So really accessible from Botswana.
Yeah.
And there are daily flights from South Africa, both Joburg and Cape Town to Vic Falls, and equally from the Kruger into Livingstone on the Zambian side of the falls. So it works in really nicely. And then a special shout out to Cape Town as always. It's such a wonderful destination, so much going on, amazing restaurants, you've got great wineries nearby, superb places to stay. So it combines really easily if people have the time and inclination.
Is there anything that clients should be keeping in mind when preparing for their trips, Felix?
I think for me, the most important thing is and this is something we do sort of in the pre-trip, pre-departure process with you, but is to really read through their final documents thoroughly. They're very comprehensive, and they can answer an awful lot of questions just in terms of logistics of connecting flights, of what luggage they're allowed, of what to pack, etc. So doing that saves a lot of stress on the ground if they arrive. They're not quite sure where they need to go in Mount Airport in Botswana, Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, as an example. Not being afraid to ask any questions. We've heard every single question over the years as a team and as individuals, and there's no question too small or silly. If someone wants something clarifying, it's an easy answer, and generally those questions, I'm sure Molly, who looks after all of our operations things here, will attest there is no question too small.
Yeah, and there's definitely no question too silly, even if amongst ourselves we may laugh at it. It's always natural, especially if it's your first time, you don't know what to expect.
Absolutely. And then just sort of anecdotes for those clients who've traveled before, a big thing is binoculars, and taking those. Yes, they do have them on a lot of the safari vehicles, but if you have a pair at least between a couple, ideally a pair each, but you can get away with a pair. It makes, particularly if you've got a far off cheetah sighting or something like that, it makes those experiences so much more enjoyable than having to wait for a pair of binos to be passed around the vehicle.
That's definitely a good tip. Always make sure you let your clients know about that. So obviously, as you kind of touched on briefly earlier, and we don't like to talk about it too much, it's a bit of a sensitive subject, but the last 2 years has been a bit of a different world of travel. A lot of people haven't been able to travel in the way that they had, especially in the context of Africa. Europe's been open a bit longer, but what is new for 2022? Is there anything different that people can expect from their time there?
I think in general, and very reassuringly, not a great deal has changed. I think anyone who had done an Africa trip in 2019, so the last unimpeded year of travel there, and went this year, would see that things are largely the same. Of course, there's some processes, border crossings and airport security takes a little bit longer. There are certain people will still need to take PCR tests to enter certain countries, but in general, the process and the experience is very much the same. I think what people will notice is, in general, camps have, despite the fact that a lot of them have been closed or working on very limited numbers over the last couple of years, they've taken the time and the opportunity to really touch up what they're offering, refurbishing soft furnishing, so cushions, drapes, bed linens, things like that. And also looking at the food and hospitality experience, which has, if you go back to when I started in the industry, food wasn't really a big thing, maybe until 2012 or even 2013. Food was pretty standard everywhere you went. really high-end camps, it was good, but now it's outstanding across the board, and everyone is catching up with latest trends. So menus have been upgraded, offering there's little touches in camps, offering more activities as well, things like the stargazing, and just making sure guides are really up to speed to offer a rounded experience. So, and I know, Molly, you've done a lot of African trips as well, and I think I'm sure you'd say this as well, but the evolution of camps over the years they're always changing, which makes it such a great experience.
Yeah, I think it was really kicked on by, we all know that South Africa kind of really started pushing the boat out, and as soon as the South African camps on safari started, developing their menus and developing things, it sort of has trickled out through the industry, and it's really, I think, as you said, accelerated in the last couple of years, which is really exciting to see. But it is always the one thing that guests comment on is kind of how have they pulled off these incredible meals in the middle of nowhere with kind of really limited resources, and it just is part of the seamless Africa journey.
Absolutely. I mean, I think from sort of new places to stay, new experiences, a few that have come through, Ambient, who many of you will know, they have reopened the iconic Sossusvlei Desert Lodge down there in the big sand dunes in Namibia. And I'm sure Molly will be keen to go there very soon, because they do have a professional telescope and an astronomer in residence now. So
it was closed when I went in 2019, so I'm very annoyed, but it's on my list.
so they really, I mean, take a look at it if you have the opportunity. It's just such a stunning property now, private pools, these great views out of the Namibia Nature Reserve. So that's really exciting. I think we've got our first set of clients of the year going there this weekend, so we're really looking forward to the feedback from them. Many of you will know Jack's Camp in Kadi in Botswana, and very excitingly, they are transporting the whole Jack's Camp field to Duke's Camp, so similarly named, in the Okavango Delta. So bringing, I think Molly touched on this earlier when we spoke, bringing something new to the Delta, which lots of the new builds have been very similar recently. And this is something I think is going to be completely different.
Yeah, I think it's nice. I mean, that is exactly what when we were chatting about it, that's what I was saying. Because I think when you look at the new camps and the new places that are opening, they're all amazing, but you suddenly start wondering, okay, well, how am I distinguishing between these places? And we're very fortunate in having a lot of first-hand knowledge, but when you don't, it can be quite overwhelming when everything actually does look quite similar as well. But I think that iconic Jack style will translate really well into Duke's Camp, so it is an exciting open.
Yeah, absolutely. And then sort of other old favourites quickly, Swalu up in the northern part of South Africa, which is great for your repeat clients who've done a lot of safari and want something very different out there in the Kalahari Desert. They're opening a new tented camp later this year, which is very exciting. And they've also put in a restaurant by one of Cape Town's top chefs, who's going to be up there and looking after guests with this Kalahari themed meal. Lots of food is foraged from the desert. So that really kind of wild but authentic way of dining, but hugely refined.
It's a great one for families, that as well, actually.
Absolutely. And then just quickly over in the last sort of new camp opening that's really exciting is our friends at Angama Mara, which is one of the great Mara camps. They're going to be opening a camp out at Amboseli in the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro later this year. And that's bringing a level of luxury and refinement to a great park and fantastic elephant enthusiasts, Amboseli, that hasn't really had super high-end luxury before. So that's going to really make a difference there, I think.
Yeah, I think it's Amboseli, which is for those of you who aren't necessarily familiar with that, want to talk down to anyone, is you will have seen the iconic pictures. It's the Kenya part, exactly as Felix says. You often have the pictures of it when people Google like Kenya elephants or Africa elephants. You get this picture of the elephants walking in the park in front of, with Kilimanjaro as the backdrop, snow-capped. So it's quite iconic, and it is exciting to have something there finally that is actually worth talking about with clients. Being conscious of time, Felix, I'm going to move us on. And what I wanted to touch on something is that the way that people are traveling now in a post-pandemic world is quite different to how they were before, and I feel like we have certainly seen an increase in family orientated trips. Why do you think it is that Africa is actually really the kind of perfect family holiday option for people.
I think, Molly, the great thing about Africa is that every experience you have is so unique. And you're dealing, like I said earlier, you're dealing predominantly with safaris, therefore you're dealing with wildlife, and you can never predict what wildlife is going to do. So no two safaris, even in the same day, are ever the same. So for that, it's just these unique memories being made day after day. Likewise, the way we put our trips together is we'll give you very contrasting safari areas. So you'll have a few days in Botswana's Okavango Delta. You'll then go out into the Makani Pans where you can see meerkats and you can go quad biking and sleep out on Kubu Island in the heart of the Pan. And it might go up to somewhere else and then go on to Victoria Falls. And then suddenly your families are coming back from that 12-day experience thinking, you look back through your photos and it orders them by day. Every single day's worth of photos are different. And for me, family holidays often being ski trips or beach breaks, they all sort of end up blending into one, a lot of them, however special they are at the time there. And I think any African trip just creates memories to last a lifetime, which is what's so important when traveling as a family.
I also think it's always, I always find it quite funny because people often come and they say, oh, we're doing our once in a lifetime trip and we're going to Africa. And that's how it always gets planned, of this kind of iconic once in a lifetime. It's going to be the best thing that we're going to do. And I think, what would you say, Felix? It probably takes an average of about a week for someone to get in touch and say, right, we're thinking of going back to Africa.
Absolutely.
When can we go?
People never go to Africa once, no matter how much they say they will. And it's the variety that offers a destination just keep you going back time and time again. And there's so many countries to cover, and we're hoping to introduce some more destinations later this year as well. So keep an eye out for that as and when.
Yeah. So if you were traveling with a large family, say you have multiple generations, because this is something that we are seeing a lot of, where you have maybe grandparents, parents, children, maybe you have uncles, whatever, aunts, all traveling together, as a group, what would be your specific recommendations, do you think?
I think for destinations, there's three. South Africa stands out as somewhere that suits larger families really, really well, in that you have an incredibly varied experience. Particularly if you're traveling with younger children, safari isn't the be all and end all. And however great it is taking children on safari, 9-10+ day trips purely in the bush with children can get a little tiring for everyone involved. So South Africa, you've got Cape Town, which is a great destination. The Winelands, hugely underrated place to go with families. It's not all about wine tasting when you're there. Walking, hiking, biking, fishing, golf, you can do balloon rides there. So a really lovely, lovely place to be. The garden route for adventurous families, getting out and about and exploring on foot is wonderful. And then you do have some outstanding safari options there. There's no doubt about that. I think when you start to travel with older children, Botswana really comes into its own in that it's got some lovely smaller camps that you can take out exclusively as a family, which I know a few of you have done with your clients in the past, and it does work incredibly well. And we've got some great private mobile guys that we work with as well, who again will have the whole family for 4 or 5 days and just curate a safari experience that is absolutely suited to you as a family, and it works superbly well. And it would be remiss not to give Kenya a shout out here. I mean, Kenya is the home of the safari. Safari is a Swahili word for journey, and what better place to take your family journey than to where safaris came from and start, and the variety in Kenya, plus the fact you've got beautiful beaches on the Indian Ocean, a few hours flight from any of the major safari areas, make Kenya a real winner. Quick touch on place to stay, just 3 of my favourites for safari, for families, for larger families. Element Villas in Cape Town. I won't say more than have a look at them online, and I think you'll just be wanting to sell them straight away. They're absolutely remarkable. Our friends at Barclay Stenner, who do the aforementioned private mobile safaris, best operators out there. The levels of quality that they provide with the food, the service, everything about the camps, they beat most fixed permanent camps in Botswana hands down, and they're moving them every 2 or 3 days. It's just remarkable what they do. And then for our favourite of Kenya, heading up to Cotter's Bush Villa in the Masai Mara, 5 bedrooms in there, so you can get the whole family under one roof. And again, just these uniquely curated safari experiences. And Molly will attest to this, the feedback we get from people who do an exclusive use buyout of a camp or take a private bush villa or private home somewhere. It just, the flexibility just helps create those memories again.
I think the flexibility is the key thing, really. When you're looking to travel as a group, I think the thing that people always struggle to perhaps navigate is how you get people, you know, how do you get the variation of you know, balance of people who want to be really active, or people who just want to do nothing, or people who, you know, want to have a lie-in in the morning because they work really hard and actually this is just their holiday where they want to relax. And that sort of variation of everything is always, you know, the thing that's got to be a balance. And actually taking a private home gives you the perfect opportunity for that. I mean, safari lodges in general do a very good job of that, as we all know, but a private place really works well if you are a big family traveling together. We've just got a question from Diana. Felix, what was the name of the private mobile group in Kenya?
Sorry, Dan, it's not private mobile in Kenya, it's in Botswana, and they're called Barclay, so Barclay Stena, and then the private home in Kenya is called Cottars Bush Villa, so Cottars Bush Villa. Although, Diane, we do have some private mobile guys that we work with in Kenya, so if that's something you have demand for, let us know and we'll share the details of that with you as well.
Yeah. So we're going to keep today short and sweet, but I was wondering, Felix, so far at True Travel, rather than the whole 16 years, otherwise we could be here a while, what has been your favourite trip so far to plan, do you think?
Cool. So I think it would be, I did a trip for a family looking to travel Christmas 2023, which
That's
I always
nice.
like. It's always nice booking that far in advance. And just as a quick segue, we'll always let you know if there's availability issues. If certain destinations are always very popular at certain times of year. So again, if you're unsure whether you're inquiring too late or you think that you're inquiring too early, often you're not, just let us know and we'll run through the the what and the why on that with you. For this family, they're heading up to a beautiful area called the Waterberg to do some horse riding in a very family-oriented property. It's grandparents, parents, and younger children. So beautiful variety in there. Heading into the Madikwe Game Reserve, malaria-free, which is very important for some families. To go and do a safari.
Not having to worry about vaccinations or malaria pills or anything. The Madikwe is perfect for that.
Very, very important. And a beautiful area, great game viewing. So they're there, and then they're heading down to one of the newer properties in South Africa called Morokuru Beach Lodge in a nature reserve called De Hoop, which is a few hours drive from Cape Town. And it's one of those very special places. I first went to De Hoop in 2006, and accommodation was half a dozen pretty rundown cottages that you really wouldn't want to stay in. And a lot of work's gone into building these beautiful lodges and private homes on the beach that are allowing people to explore the inland part of the nature reserve and get out and about and explore the coastline as well. And it's just such a fun itinerary, really varied. And I think for an itinerary taking young kids, it has something for everybody. And it's just a really wonderful way. And yeah, it's sad it's a little while till we get feedback on it, but it's a great trip nonetheless.
So I am, as I said, we're keeping this short today. But if anyone is wanting to arrange a one-to-one call with Felix to discuss anything further, or Matt's going on holiday for couple of weeks to Croatia, so not immediately, but Felix is around. They're both going to be around to chat to, and we're always happy to have a one-to-one, even if it's just a kind of brainstorming session. We're always here for you. I'm going to do a quick fire round, but if anyone has any questions that they would also like to ask, then you can just pop those in the Q&A box. We had a couple sent in already just from the newsletter, so I'm going to do those now. And then I will come on to the important prize draw, which I'm sure you're all here for. No offense, Felix. Right, so a couple of quick questions. What is your favourite thing about a holiday to Africa?
I think it's the uniqueness and that no 2 days are the same, and that amazing sense of adventure that any trip to Africa brings, no matter where you go.
Okay. What's your favourite animal?
A wild dog.
That's a nice one. If you could snap your fingers and be anywhere in Africa right now, where would it be?
I would be at Sausage Tree Camp in the Lower Zambezi in Zambia.
That's a great one. What is one thing that you haven't done in Africa that's on your bucket list still?
It would have to be Western Tanzania. So safaris in the Katavi National Park, and then heading up to trek to see chimpanzees. I always get that one wrong. In the Mahali Mountains on the shores of Lake Tanganyika.
Yeah, I mean, Katavi is definitely for the intrepid Africa traveller, someone who's been a few times. What is it? They have something like less than 500 visitors a year or something.
They get, I mean, their season basically runs from June to November, and across that entire time, they get fewer visitors across the season than the Ngorongoro crater gets in a day.
Yeah.
So it really is a to yourself and unique safari experience.
Yeah, if you've got any Africa bod clients who think they've been and done it all, then Katavi and Mahali definitely have to be on the list. We've got a question from Michael. Just, what areas do we do with primates and gorillas?
Absolutely, Michael. So for gorillas themselves, the two main areas are Rwanda and Uganda that you can do them in there. And that's to see mountain gorillas. We can also do some amazing trips to the Republic of Congo, where you can trek to see Western lowland gorillas, slightly smaller primates, more in a forest environment rather than the mountain gorillas, which are in the Virungas. You can also do chimpanzee trekking in both Rwanda and Uganda. And also, as I said, chimps out in western part of Tanzania as well. So very varied. And if you need to, happy to share some more details on that with you on email after this.
And you've also got the golden monkey treks, which you can do in Uganda and Rwanda as well. All worthwhile, certainly. Definitely a different type of trip, which combines really well if you wanted to do you could do Uganda as a safari and gorilla combination, or you can combine either of those together with Kenya or Tanzania really easily as well. So definitely options all around. I have a question. My final question for you, Felix, before we let everyone head off, is what country is at the top of your bucket list that's not Africa?
Not Africa. Well, I think in honour of the fact that we're speaking to our agents in the US today, it is the USA, and more specifically Alaska for a heli skiing trip. Definitely on the bucket list, and one to get done much sooner rather than later.
I'd be jealous of that one for sure. Okay, well, I think that is going to wrap us up for today. As I mentioned, everyone, at the beginning, this is the first of a series of webinars that we're going to be doing with the relevant specialists that we have here at True Travel. And so always, if there are any questions that you want to know, if you want to have any specific training on any specific countries, we're always happy to do the one-to-ones, and we're always happy to jump on a call just to chat through anything. And the next time that we do these, the next webinar will be with Matt, so you may be familiar with already, but we'll do a similar sort of thing. And if you have any questions, then let us know, and we will be in touch in due course. Thanks all for joining.
Thank you very much for joining, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.